Hey guys, Polly B here of Sober Mean to C.C.B.C. And we just want to get back on track with the story because I'm now going into my mid 30s, and like a lot has happened up to this point. There's a lot that we have talked about that that has gone on, but there's also a lot that we haven't talked about because there's just stuff that don't need to be talked about instead because it's telling my general story throughout my whole life. Just to get back where we are, so in my mid 30s, this is when I had separated from my first wife, and I wasn't very long. I say almost a year, and then I was in another relationship with another woman, which is now my wife. Um, but I had separated from my ex-wife, and at that point in time, my addiction was probably getting to its heaviest point with the drinking and with the drugging all the time. Most important for me back then was dope. Uh, my kids came last, my wife came last, my friends came last. Dope and booze came first, and that was a big problem. Like I said, I got my ex-wife into some habits that she shouldn't have, and then that's ultimately, I think, what put our relationship on the fritz because we were just wanting two separate things in life at the same time. So we end up going our separate ways, and she has found another man which she is happy with, and I have found another woman now which I am happy with. So we'll get into that a little bit more as the story goes on. But now I'm into my mid 30s, and now I'm out on my own. And at this point in time, I've been truck driving from Ontario to Newfoundland and anywhere in between. And while I was on the road, I was sober as a judge the whole time. Never ever took anything on the road with me. But as soon as I got off the road, the very first day off the road, that night was mine, and I would get on the go. And by the next morning, I would have my whole paycheck spent and gone. And that was a reoccurring event every time I got off the road. As soon as I get to our destination in Newfoundland, boom, that first night, I'd get on the go. And then get back on the road the next day, get back to Ontario, very first night, same thing, boom, get on the go. And that was a reoccurring, but then it became every day. And then I was getting up late for work every day. And then my boss was over banging on my door all the time, trying to get me up for work. And then I was so strung out all the time, and having to go to work strung out, well, which you all know it's not a very good thing. We don't like it, but we end up doing it. And like how? And that was the thing. For years and years, I was a functional alcoholic and a functional addict. And that was one of the biggest problems that I had, is because I was functional with doing everything. My only problem was routine and structure. I never had that structure of I had to be at work 7 o'clock every morning. I had the option. For me, I did anyways go to work when I wanted, and it kind of made my addiction get to a higher point to where it was like alcohol and dope came over everything, and it ended up costing me a lot of jobs over the course of my life because I couldn't commit and I couldn't get that routine and structure down because I had a routine and structure with getting high, and that took over most of my life. And like I said, it became addicting to be addicted, if that makes any sense at all. And I know it's hard to understand, but it was a thrill to be doing this and not getting caught. Because for a long while, I hid it from my ex-wife. For almost 9 years, I hid it from her that she didn't know. And now, don't get me wrong, when I finally come out and told her, it actually really did feel good to finally get it off my chest because it was just, it got to the point where it was hiding it for so long, you know what I mean? And doing it and hiding it is horrible. It's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to the wife. It's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to your friends. It's not fair to work. And that's just how selfish we really are. And that's the best word for it I possibly can think is selfish, because that's a lot of our problems with addiction and alcoholism, is that we are so selfish that we don't care what other people think or what other people want. All we care about is what we want at that point in time. You know what I mean? So like I said, in my mid 30s, I started getting on my own. And then, like I said, I met a woman, and this woman, she was not into any drugs or anything else. She drank, yes, but she only drank occasionally on the weekends and stuff like that. Right, you know what I mean? It wasn't like me. So for the first 2 years with this girl, I had hid my addiction. She kind of knew that I was into sniffing a little bit, but she had no idea about the smoking and all the other dope that I was doing. So because I kept it hidden. So, and like I said, because I wanted her to see me for me, not me as an addict or as a drug head. So for the first 2 years, like I said, I kept it hidden, this and that. And then after 2 years, I finally told her. Now, she didn't judge me. She didn't look down on me for it. She kept liking me for me. And yeah, no, she didn't want me on it. And yes, she wanted me to get off it. But the thing was, is I wasn't ready. And if I'm not ready, there's no point of anybody trying to push me to do it because it's only going to rebel. And I'm glad, in a way, I'm glad that she didn't. And then on the other hand, I really wish she kind of did. I probably would have got off it quicker because I ended up being more selfish to people because no one really looked down on me for my addictions and my alcoholism. And when we all know with alcohol, it's socially acceptable, so nobody really looks down on it. But then when it comes to the dope, everybody looks down on it, and I don't blame them either because it turns you into a different person. It changes you for who you are. It'll make you do things that normally you would not really do with a straight mind. And it took me a long time to learn this, you know what I mean? But I finally got it over years. But coming into my mid 30s, like I said, it was the highest point of my alcoholism and this and that. And then so being with this girl, I was really hoping that it would cut down on my drug use, but it never. And that just goes to show you how selfish I really am. Even though I had a very well maintained girl who had her life together, she had not getting in any drugs at all. She had everything in her life stable. And then I come along, and like, don't get me wrong, I've never taken from her. But in actuality, I've taken time from her of getting to know each other and getting to build our relationship to be into a stronger level. Don't get me wrong, our relationship has never been better than ever now. And that's all because of getting clean and sober, which is the best decision I ever made. Now, that took me a long while to get to, but like I said, we'll get to that. So, and then coming up in my mid 30s, like I said, is my addiction got worse and worse and worse. And then I end up deciding with my new girlfriend is, hey, let's move to Newfoundland, where I used to come from, Ballallen. And so it's a little bit laid back, more easier living. So we end up moving down, and it was probably one of the worst decisions I ever made in my whole life. They would not accept her because she was an outsider. They couldn't accept the fact that I had changed and turned my life around. Now, at this point, when I moved to Newfoundland, I had quit drugs completely. Now, I was still drinking, but I quit the drugs completely, which was a big thing for me. I quit cold turkey. And we moved down, and like I said, I had a job. It was hard at first for her to get a job, but didn't she end up finally getting one? And this is a small island you're talking about, a little small island which you're talking about, which everybody knows everybody and everybody knows your business. And it's a hard place to get accepted because everybody has been there for so long, and there's not very many outsiders that come there. So it was really difficult to try to get by and try to live. Like, I was working 3 jobs and she was working 2 jobs, and you know what I mean. That was one just to make ends meet, but 2 just to support my drinking habit at that point in time. So at that point, we were home for about, and I call it home, but we were in Newfoundland for about a year, and I ended up getting in contact with one of my old friends, and then he asked me to do something for him, and then that ended up leading me getting back into the dope. And then I was hiding it from her. Like, it got that bad to the point where my e-bike, whenever I used to show up at my buddy's place, I would take it, drag it, put it inside the porch so she couldn't see it in the driveway in case she was out driving around. And then I was on the phone like looking around at the camera at home to see if she had left yet. Like that's how bad the paranoia and everything got. Um, it really got bad to the point, like I said, I was hiding it from her. I was hiding it from all my friends. My mother was the one that kind of knew that something was on the go because she knew that my routine had changed. So when all that changed up, she had kind of gotten worried. So she had gotten contact with my girlfriend, which is now my wife, and let her know that something was up. And then that's essentially how I got caught. Now it sucked because sometimes hiding drug use from a spouse can kind of look like cheating. So I can understand where their heads go at and what they're thinking at that time. And I do apologize for them actions and this and that because it was not my intentions for any of that to be meant like that. But that's the way it happened. That's the way it went on. So, and now that's coming up to about 36, 37 years old is when this happened. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm coming up. I'm getting older, man. I'm starting to realize that there's more to life than just this. Now I've been 10 years trying to quit, and I ended up getting a tattoo on my leg. It's an elephant. It's got my kid's initials into it, but it says on the outside of it, it says, "No matter what it takes, I'm going to die clean." And I wanted that there purposely because I do. I want to be able to be sober for my kids, myself, my family, my friends, for everybody, even all the people at AA who help me every week get through this week by week, week by week. As long as we can be sober for today, that's all that matters. Is one day at a time. You know what I mean? So now I'm at about 36, 37 years old, and I've just gotten back into drugs again. My drinking was still at an all-time high. So what ended up happening is we ended up getting that bad into it is that we both had lost our jobs over it and then ended up struggling to get back to Ontario because neither one of us had a job financially. So we ended up getting a $600 check from unemployment, and I took that to go across Newfoundland. Now we knew it wasn't going to get us right to Ontario, but we knew we just had to get out of Newfoundland at that point in time, because if not, life would have got really bad for everybody. Because it was just got to the point where my addiction, and it's just like I never ever cared. I was getting angry all the time. The only thing I ever cared about was dope and booze, dope and booze. And then at this point in time is when I started to not even care about the booze. It's just all I wanted was dope, dope, dope. And which was strange for me because everybody knew me growing up as an alcoholic. Everybody knew me as a huge drinker. Like it was looked up on. The more you could drink, you got more respect from people. Like it's a totally different world where I grew up, man. It's like we're our own little place, our own little country, kinda. But yeah, you get looked up on for the amount you can drink, and if you can drink more than this person, right? And it's just the way it was. So we had decided to come back to Ontario, and like I said,